If you can create these value variations in your drawing, it will look realistic. Most of you are not able to copy exact values because the values are relative. You should have a clear-cut understanding about the light and shadow. Hi, I'm Hariprasad Sukumaran. So welcome to today's video. So in today's video, we'll try to understand how to make your drawings look realistic. Okay, so what's the main foundation of a realistic drawing? So before that, in my previous video, I have explained about the difference between shape and a form. I highly recommend you to go and watch that video. The link is given in the description box. So it's a foundation of this video. So if you don't know what is a shape and a form, I'll try to explain in few words. So basically, shape is a two-dimensional thing. Anything two-dimensional is a shape. Anything three-dimensional is a form. Okay, so anything. So normally when you're trying to create a realistic drawing, we are trying to actually create a form. We have trying to create a three-dimensional form, correct? So our objective is always to create a three-dimensional feeling in your drawing. Okay, that is called a realistic drawing, right? So when you try to create a three-dimensional form, automatically it will look realistic. That's the idea. So the idea about realistic drawing is all about creating a three-dimensional form. Okay, that's the important thing. And also I have explained in previous videos about the value. So value is nothing but the lightness or darkness. Okay, so by giving proper lightness and darkness, by applying proper light and shadow, we can create an illusion of form. So your drawings will look realistic. Okay, that's the foundation of the realistic drawing. But today's video, we are going to learn more deeper about this light and shadow. And also we'll try to understand how to make your drawings look realistic. Okay, so make sure you watch till the end of the video. Okay, so let's start the video. Okay, so here you can see the drawing. So it is my charcoal drawing actually. So here you can see that boy's face, right? You can feel that realistic effect, right? You can feel that water, all droplets, everything. And you can feel that three-dimensional effect there, correct? It's looking realistic, right? So see here, there are a lot of elements to that. Okay, maybe definitely, the art materials, art supplies, all the things. But more than everything, the foundation is important, the fundamentals, right? So here also that this drawing is looking realistic. The main reason is the light and shadow. Again, the value. Solely told, it's all about creating an illusion of form. So it has some three-dimensional quality. Okay, it's looking like a form because it has value variation. So what's the meaning of that? You can see here, if you take the face of this boy, you can see every part is getting different kind of light. That's why you can see some parts are lighter, some parts are darker, right? You can feel that. Example, the shadow below that face, right? And you can see some shadows in the cheeks. So there are a lot of small variation. You can see the light, where light is coming from, all that variation. See, if you can create these value variations in your drawing, if you can create these differences in value, the light and shadow, it will look realistic. It's simple as that. Okay, so most of you know these things. It's all about value variation. But the problem is when you try to copy a photograph, okay, now you can create an illusion of form, or you can create an illusion of three-dimension by applying value variation. But the problem is most of you are not able to copy from a photograph. Like if you imagine if you have a photograph, we know that, okay, this is the value here, this much darkness we have to give, this much lightness we have to give, right? But when you try to do, normally we won't be able to exactly copy the value variation. Okay, that's the problem, because it's not just your problem, because our eyes are not trained to actually exactly copy every value variation. Okay, that's the main issue. Okay, so because there are a lot of elements, but most of the important problem is values are relative. Okay, so it's difficult to understand the exact values. Okay, so I will try to explain that in few minutes, because most of you are not able to copy exact values because the values are relative. So let's understand this concept. What is relative value? Okay, so let's see that. So now let's try to understand actually what is relative value. Okay, so this is the reason most of you are not able to copy the exact values. We are not able to create the exact value variation because of this issue that is called as relative value. So here you can see there are two circles, 1 and 2, right? Can you see here? 1 and 2. So in these two shapes or these two circles, which is looking darker? So please observe and tell me which is actually looking darker, right? So you can see clearly this, right? The 2 is looking darker than 1, correct? So here, this one, right? This is looking darker. This circle is looking darker than 1, right? So when you see, you can feel that 2 is looking darker than 1. Okay. So now let's see. Now I'm moving this 2 here. So now what you feel, right? So can you feel that difference? So now actually both are looking same. actually both of the circles have same value. It is same. It is not different. Both of the circles are same value. It has same lightness or darkness, right? But when I am bringing this again this into here, can you see the difference? It's looking more darker, right? The 2 is looking more darker than 1. Now I'm bringing again to this thing. It is looking same. Both are looking same, correct? So this is called relative value. What's the meaning of that? Even though both are same, here when you're moving this 2 into this background, we can see the background is white here. So this 2 is looking more darker. Okay. Other one you see looking lighter because the background of the 1 is actually black or very dark. So looking lighter. Here the 2 for the 2, the background is white, so it's looking darker. So it's the same kind. So same way, if I'm moving that 1, okay, if I'm moving that 1 here, that's also looking darker, correct? It's looking darker now because the idea is background is lighter here. So that is called relative value. That means something, the value of something depends on what is nearby that. So here the background is white, so it's looking darker. Same way, if you here the left side background is black, very dark, so the circle is looking lighter. So understand, so it's contrast. It's so the problem is when you're trying to copy a photograph and try to copy a value variation, how much light or dark it is. Most probably you cannot do that because you are not able to understand the exact values because the value of some things, it will be influenced by what is nearby that. Say example, when you're trying to draw a portrait, I have seen most people when you're drawing portrait, they will look, their skin tones look very lighter actually. Okay, the problem is because normally we have hairs, all the things, right? So the hairs, if example the hair is darker, correct? So when you're seeing that you're comparing with the hair, so you feel that your skin is lighter than what it is because you're comparing with the hair because hair is darker. So example, if the portrait is the background is black, imagine if a background is black, okay? So when you're trying to, normally, if a background is black, the face will look more lighter than what it is because you're comparing with black, contrast, something. So if there's a dark background, your object will look more lighter. Same concept here. So that's the reason when you try to copy, I have seen mostly you are trying to make it very lighter than what it is, especially the, portraits. So these are problems. So that's I'm telling you, when you try to copy a photograph, mostly we won't be able to exactly copy the values because values are relative. So for that, you need more observation skills. We have to keep on practicing to get the exact values. If you get the exact values, then only we can make it realistic, right? So that's I'm telling you, just if when you're trying to copy, most probably you will fail as a realistic artist, or if you try to create you will fail to create the illusion of 3 dimension because most probably your values will become not exactly like photograph or whatever may be. Okay, so that's why understanding the fundamentals is very important. You have to understand the light and shadow very deep level so that even though you cannot exactly copy the value, still it's not an issue because you know where should be what, like how much value there, right? Based on the light, based on the light direction of light, you can predict how much value should be, how much darker or how much lighter it should be. If you learn like that, then even if you cannot 100% copy, it's not an issue. Still your drawings look realistic. Okay, it will look realistic. That's why I'm going to explain you, because to become a good artist, especially realistic artist, you should have a clear-cut understanding about the light and shadow. Okay, instead of just copying a photograph. So we'll try to understand the most important fundamentals of light and shadow. Okay, so now let's try to understand the fundamentals of light and shadow, how light interacts with the form and how the light and shadows are created. If you can understand these basics, then you can easily create any drawings look realistic, because we are understanding the fundamentals. We are not just copying, we are understanding and we are doing. Okay, there's a lot of difference. So let's try to understand the foundation of light and shadow. Okay, here you can see the light. It is this part, right? You can see here this part, it is getting light. This part is getting more light, correct? So you can see here definitely light will be coming from this direction. Now just observe, just try to observe, or just to make your eyes bit smaller, right? You make or close one eye and see, or just make your eyes smaller. You can feel approximately there is a line like this. Can you feel it, everyone? Right? So approximately there is a line you can see here. From that point, it is getting darker, right? You can see here, if I'm marking 1 and 2, you can feel that 2 is darker than 1, right? So here you can see from this point, actually the shadow is starting, correct? So this line, okay, it is called as terminator line. What is that? Terminator line. So terminator line or line of termination, okay, it's basically the point which, or the line which separates the light and shadow. Okay, just note down, the terminator line is the line which separates light and shadow. So basically, right to this terminator line is light, left to terminator line is shadow. That's the meaning. Just a very general classification. Okay. Now let's try to come to this light family, because this right is called light family because that is the part which is getting light. Why it's called light family? Because that is a part which is getting more light. Okay. Now this is this part. Okay. So this part which is getting the shadow. So that is called as form shadow. Very simple thing, because example, this is a form, right? Already told anything three-dimensional is called form. So this is a form. So the shadow created on the form is called as form shadow. Okay. Basically this terminator line separates light family and the form shadow. Okay. So try to understand these terms. So now let's try to come to this light family. Okay. Now in this light family, you can see a bright spot here. Can you see a bright spot, right? So this is the part which is getting direct light. Okay, direct light. So that spot is a reflection of light source. It's a reflection of light source. So that white spot or the reflection, it is called as highlight. It is called as highlight. So this highlight actually will be the lightest value. Okay. So why we are learning these terms? Because we have to understand the terms, their position, also their values also, how much light or dark it will be. Okay. So in that sense, highlight will be the lightest value. Okay. Now, so you can see that this part that's surrounding the highlight, you can see this much. Okay, so that is also very lighter value, but not light as compared to highlight. Okay, that area is called as, both surrounding that highlight, right? That part is called as center light. Center light. Okay. Now next part, this part. Okay, what I mark here, that is after center light. We can see this part before the terminator line. Can you see this? So this is called as mid-tone or half-tone. So mid-tone or half-tone is actually the transition from light to dark. Okay, understand? So it's a part of light family only. It's getting direct light, but it is actually, a transition. Okay, a transition to the shadow. Okay, but still it's on the light family, but it's in between, I can tell, light and shadow, but still, if I'm taking technically, the mid-tone is on the light family. Okay, fine. Now let's come to the shadow. So here you can see the shadow, form shadow. This is completely called as form shadow. Okay. In form shadow, you can see actually the bottom, even though it's a shadow, you can see here the bottom. Okay. This bottom part is getting some kind of light. Can you feel here? The bottom is getting some kind of light, right? Right. So if I'm marking 1 and 2, you can see 2 is lighter than 1, right? So that is because here the light is coming in this direction, right? Light is coming in this direction. It will hit the surface and they'll bounce back some light. Okay. So normally it will be darker only, but because the light is coming and bouncing back from the surface, there is some kind of light there. So this is called as reflected light. Okay. The light reflected back, that is called as reflected. Okay. Reflected light. So understand, reflected light is not a direct light. It is an indirect light. Okay. It is a light bounced from the surface. Okay, so that's reflect. That's how you can see some light here. Okay. Now remaining part of the form shadow. Okay, this part. This is very dark. Can you see it's very dark? That is called as core shadow. So core shadow is actually the darkest shadow on the form. Okay, the dark. If you take the full egg, here the egg is a form, right? If you take the full egg, the darkest shadow is on the core shadow. Okay, clear, right? So this is about the value, like different terms you have to remember with respect to this form. Okay. Now coming to this shadow, can you see the bottom, this shadow, right? So basically why there is a shadow there? Very simple thing, because that part is blocked, that light is blocked by the egg, right? That much area is blocked by this egg. That's why there's a shadow created there, right? So the shadow created because the light is blocked by the object, okay? Or the shadow casted by the object, okay? That is called as cast shadow. What is that? Cast. That is called a cast shadow. Shadow casted by the object is called as cast shadow. So understand, don't get confused between form shadow and cast shadow. So form shadow is generally the shadow created on the form. Okay. So here the form shadow consists of both core shadow and that reflected light. That complete that shadow area part of the egg, it's called as form shadow, right? But cast shadow is not on the form, it's outside the form. It is created by the form. Okay, don't get confused. So shadow created by the form or shadow casted by the form, it is called as cast shadow. Okay. In cast shadow, there are some, again some differences in value, right? So understand all these are value variation actually. Okay, all these elements have some value variation, right? That we'll try to understand. But now let's try to understand the terms and what are they. Okay. So now here you can see this just below the egg is completely dark. Can you see? Just below the egg is completely dark, right? This much area. So that is called as occlusion. That is called as occlusion. Okay, occlusion or ambient occlusion. Generally, you can tell occlusion. Okay, that is very dark. Now, this much area. Okay, can you see next to the occlusion? Okay, this is called as umbra. 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 Okay. Now you can see this cast shadow. You can see outer edges very thin. Sorry, very lighter value, like a soft edge. Okay. So the cast shadow is the complete is called cast shadow. Understand? The shadow created by the object or casted by the object. In cast shadow, we have three separate elements. Okay, one is occlusion. That is the just the below the object is completely dark. That is occlusion. Now next area is called as umbra. The next second part is called umbra, and the outer edges, the softer edges of this cast shadow is called as penumbra. Penumbra, penumbra. Okay, so these are the terms you have to remember with respect to light and shadow, and why they are important. Okay, so already told you there is a problem of relative value. Okay, now how understanding these terms will help you to overcome that problem of relative value. I will tell that because see, every of these elements has a value associated with that. What's the meaning of that? Okay, so even though from the photograph, even we cannot copy exact value, how much light or dark, it's not an issue. Just we have to identify these elements. What's the meaning of that? When you see a photograph, you understand where is light coming from, where is the highlight, where is the center light, where is midtone, where is core shadow, where is reflected light, where is cast shadow. This if you have to identify these elements, it's very easy, right? Once you identify, you can assign some value. What's the meaning of that? Only you have to compare within these terms. Example, here if I'm taking highlight is the lightest value. So make sure you give lightest value for the highlight. That's all. Okay, almost will be white, or depends on the color also, but lightest value. Okay. Now next, make sure next darker should be center light surrounding the highlight. Next darker should be midtone. Just relative. Okay, you don't want to worry, even though you cannot exactly copy, just make sure highlight is the lightest. Touch lighter darker should be center light. Next darker should be midtone. Okay. Now definitely coming to the shadow part, make sure the shadow is darker than light. Okay, so the core shadow will be very dark. So it depends on the reflected light. If there is no reflected light, it will be completely dark. Otherwise, it may not be completely black, but very dark. So make sure anyway within that form, that will be the darkest value. Okay, if you compare the other highlight, center light, midtone, reflected light, core shadow should be the darkest. That's the thing. So just make sure that will be the darkest, right? Now make sure the reflected light is touch lighter than the core shadow. Okay, that's all. Reflected light should be lighter than the core shadow. Okay, but very important things most people make mistake is don't make reflected light too much light, because here you see again we feel that reflected light is very light because again due to relative value concept, because below reflected light we can see the occlusion very dark, right? So you feel that reflected light is very light. It's not that much light. It's a common mistake. Well, you know, reflected light is not a direct light. It's a bounce light. So make sure that should not be too much bright. Okay, the core shadow will be darkest. Okay, but a touch lighter should be, make sure it's a touch lighter than the core shadow. That's all. Okay, and another common mistake is people make the midtone very dark. It's not like that. Understand? The midtone is on the lighter part, right? Midtone is a part of light family, so it should be touch darker than the center light. That's all. Okay, from midtone to shadow there will be a sudden change. Actually, that's why the terminator line is visible. Okay, so make sure the highlight should be lightest. A touch darker should be center light. A touch more darker should be midtone. That's all. Then coming to the core shadow, make core shadow very dark. Okay, and reflected light a touch lighter than the core shadow. That's all. And again depends on the lighting. Okay, so here we are taking one light source. That's how commonly this is how you can learn the light and shadow. Okay, and we have only one direct light source. Okay, and this is how you can study. But if you understand these terms, if you just give this value variation as I told, right, just relatively, definitely if you just do even like a small thing, we can try that. It will look realistic because we are using the science of light actually. Okay, so that's why even we cannot copy 100%. If you remember these things, it will make your drawing look three-dimensional. Okay, now coming to the cast shadow, make sure the occlusion should be completely dark because it is just below the object. They won't get any light. So make sure occlusion you can even give darkest value, almost black, no problem. Okay, because it is completely dark. Then the umbra should be touch lighter than the occlusion. It should be a bit lighter. and the penumbra should be a bit more lighter. That's all. Okay, so if you create this value variation, right, even it's not just only for this example I'm telling, this egg. You can use the same technique for any kind of complex objects, even if you're taking a portrait. Only make sure you find out the elements, make sure you make this value variation. That is, as I told, midtone should be darker than center light, right? Core shadow should be darkest value. Reflected light should be lighter than the core shadow. If you make this value variation within that drawing, immediately you can see the result. You'll get the effect of 3-dimensional. It will look 3-dimensional, right? So this is the way you have to understand light and shadow. And so now onwards, you try to understand this value variation and try to apply these things in your drawing. Okay, you can see the improvement. Okay, so I hope it was useful for you. I like to see your feedback, what you felt about this class, whether it was useful or not. Please let me know in the comments. And if you found it useful, please subscribe to my channel. So coming videos, I will try to make more useful videos for you. Okay, so take care. See you in the next video.